Welcome to Season 4 of the Knack 4 Business Podcast.
Today's sponsor is at Hive. If you're in Ottawa and looking for a professional space to record, meet clients, or just get serious work done, they have a podcast booth, private offices, and meeting rooms available to members. And if you're not in Ottawa, their online membership still gets you into the community and events. Link is in the show notes.
Question to the audience. What if you could run your business like a full team and you're still doing it solo? That feeling of being stretched too thin, too many tools, not enough hands, it's real. But something is shifting, and today's guest has been living it from the inside. Allan Edmond, the CEO of TechPeace, based in Grimsby, Ontario, builds web and mobile apps using Glide and no-code tools that are powerful but easy to use. Allan works with solopreneurs and non-technical founders who have big ideas but don't want to get lost in complicated technology. What makes him different? Well, he went solo twice after a decade working inside big agencies. He knows both worlds. Now he's back to coding, but this time through AI agents. And he helps his clients build custom solutions that actually fit how they work. He also writes a daily newsletter over at LA Toolbox Diana on Substack. It's written in French. His tagline says it simply: peace of mind powered by technology. Allan, it is really awesome to have you here today. Folks can't see you, but you're smiling, man, and it's a good smile.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Do you have a favorite quote or saying?
So the quote I start to use more and more is basically AI lets a solo technologist operate like a small product team. And it's not something that you will be able to do someday. It's like happening right now.
That it is. So you went out solo twice. What made you go, agency, you've been great, but ciao. Why did you leave twice?
So the first time around was actually just opportunity. We were living in Singapore with my now wife, back then girlfriend. And so she had an opportunity to be transferred to Australia. And so I just followed her. And so basically couldn't keep the same job. And so I just took this opportunity to start doing my own little agency for small businesses, and we were building websites. So that was the first time around. So that one wasn't really a big move. It was just because I was losing my job anyway. And so I was like, might as well just start something on your own.
Wow, you're a traveler. That's even better. This is really great stuff. So over the years, I've met people that are developers that do coding, and right now we're talking about no code or agentic coding. What caused that shift? Why did you move away from sitting at the keyboard going strange letter equals strange letter?
Exactly. Yeah. So I have a background in engineering, and so I started as a developer back in the and so at the beginning, during school, college, it was great to code because you can see you can build stuff. But when you start being a developer by trade, you start to realize you spend more time troubleshooting and fixing than actually building. And so it was a huge pain for me. I started not liking to code anymore. And that's one of the main reasons I switched to no code in the first place, because no codes is basically what you see is what you get, clicking around, dragging stuff around, and you end up building and seeing what you build. So that was great. And I went for no code for a good 4 or 5 years. But with the evolution of AI, I started playing around again with agentic coding since last Christmas. You see everybody now is using Cloud Code and being able to do stuff. So I started on my own as well. And from there, I realized that I can go back to coding, but without the pain of the thing that made me leave in the first place. So the troubleshooting and the fixing, and even not the writing. So that's what basically helped me go back. And I really enjoy it because I'm no longer the minion fixing the bugs.
I can appreciate not being the minion in that instance. I truly can. So it's a tech shift, but it's more than a tech shift. It's a business model shift too, right? So it's time spent, again, just kind of going back, right? Being the minion means now you're laboring away as opposed to something else is building it for you. Do you think this is going to get even easier as time goes on, or is it still going to be the province of someone who goes, yeah, you can do your own, but if you want complicated, you'll need someone that has a little more under the hood or a little more knowledge base?
Yeah, so that's something I'm gonna be talking about more and more, especially on LinkedIn, now that everybody has access to agentic coding. And it started all with Lovable, really, which was a website building, and they can build web apps that are great. And you can quickly spin up a UI that functions more like a prototype, that's really convincing, that has transactions and everything. But it doesn't have necessarily all the backend architecture and the security foundations that engineers spent the entire training learning and applying and being corrected by professors. So I think, and also you hear a lot of stories. I was shared a post by somebody in the parenting space explaining how there was a tool she found where she managed as a user to see everybody else's emails and names and even kids information. So that becomes the threat now, because people can build tools and platforms and web apps and websites, but AI only does what you tell it. Also, AI has an incentive to make you happy. So it will eventually cut corners to show you something that you ask so that you are satisfied and you keep using it and not go away, essentially, as opposed to us engineers and software developers and the technical guys who have the background knowledge of knowing how stuff should be built and the security implication, the architecture, the importance of architecture, the data model, the security and everything. So my say is basically, if you are doing a tool for your kids, something that you only have access to and it's maybe just on your laptop, go for it, man. You no longer need a developer, and that will unlock the power from so many people and empower so many people. As soon as you want to have software that's going to be used by somebody else and other people, you should at least, I don't say you need to hire an engineer in the first place. For sure, start with a lovable prototype, start playing around with the idea, get feedback, get people interested. As soon as you are serious about launching, you should definitely get someone technical with you to oversee and review what you've done and make sure you don't end up having a breach, a security hack, or something very bad that can happen.
I was at a presentation last night, and there was a company. They're out of Toronto, and they're using AI. The product is called Kid Capsule, so they got a free plug here. And what it is, it's about getting the stories from the parents or it's a family story, and it's a place, it's a repository. And what was happening was they'd reached out to Algonquin College, and they had some students help build around, like, doing the next iteration of what's happening. And I listened to one of the students, and you just kind of highlighted it, the engineering piece that you needed. The young lady was explaining. She says, "Yep, it took up memory on the computer as opposed to, or in the processor as opposed to over there." And I guess if it's a light use, it's, you really might not care. But if it's drawing on heavy resources, it might slow your machine down. When you're coming across, if someone gets an app, for example, how do they know it's I'll use the word tight enough, but how do you know it's good enough? In other words, it's not leaky, and it's not gonna make your machine wobble when you hit, "Oh, I'm gonna hit this button," and the next thing you know, leave your computer alone for 10 minutes. It's sorting stuff out as opposed to using the, resources in the cloud.
So there are two things. There are web apps and local apps. So if you are building something on your machine, and especially with the tools we have today, they are very memory hungry because because we could forget this. I just like to repeat it. AI is only good at predicting the next word it's going to say. In order to do it, it's not thinking really. It's just consuming text and reproducing text. Whether that text is a sentence it's going to give you or code or whatever, it's always producing text. And so in order to predict the best next word, it has to consume as much data as it can. And so that's where the memory, and it's caching some memory over there. So it's basically building its own brain as text file, sorry, inside your machine. So that's what might take up a lot of space. To this, there isn't really a big solution right now. It's in the way it's done, because that's what makes it powerful, is because of the context it has. But it's basically just sweeping the data as much as you can and just give it instructions to kind of clean itself up. So that's for the software hungry memory on your machine. On the web part, where it's about leaking data and being hacked, there is never 100% chance you will never get hacked, because hackers are very skilled people, and if somebody is determined to hack you, they will find a way.
Yeah.
And even if it's not your infrastructure necessarily, it could be phishing attacks. So there are so many ways to do malicious things that there's no 100% chance you will not be affected. However, there are many foundational and very, not basic, but foundational is the right word actually, approaches to build software. And so building software is not something that just appeared with AI coding. Engineers and developers have been doing it for decades. So along the way, again, to go back to, this is our trade and our training, we've been building best practices and habits and rules and guidelines along the way that we know and we learn and we follow. So that's what you need to follow. And it's out there. You have documentation online, you have even the backend services and the frameworks or whatever the tools you use would produce or have documentation on how to follow these guidelines. But if you're not a technical person, again, you don't know what you don't know, basically. And so again, you should focus more on your idea, your vision, and what you want to achieve, and get somebody that's worried about where is my database going to be, and what are the rules to access this role. This You shouldn't try to learn every single thing, and just get surrounded by the people. I mean, that's the same of the company, right? One CEO doesn't do everything. You hire people to do the different departments and skill sets that you need. So it's the same thing. It's not because code is cheap that you don't need nobody anymore.
So, with that in mind, if I'm a business and I'm going, listen, I want to run an AI bot, and I'm going to call it a bot, but or agentic, and I want to run it just in my local environment. In other words, I get an email, so boss, there's an email, I've read it, and it should go here. Some sort of transaction happens. Even when I'm doing the podcast processing, right? I have a series of steps, both for bringing people into my space, and then doing the recording, and then post production, and it's a series of things. So it would thread things. I could see a bot threading things through for me, so I'm not sitting there, and then I just look for errors in case there's a typo or something like that. Is that something then less disconcerting versus something that has to face outwards? To go back to, like, other people are using it so that it's not leaky or it's not doing something silly. So if a business wants to do something like a solopreneur, a small, 5 to 10 person shop, is that something that they can do themselves, and then maybe then reach out to you or reach out to another expert to help? Okay, if I got it right, can you take the screwdriver and tweak the knob so that I'm in the right spot in the right time?
Yeah, so I read an article. I think it's the co-creator of Django, which is a Python framework. So a very skilled, very known guy, very smart. And so I think it's him. He wrote an article about the rise and the threats of having personal AI agents. So that's basically what you mentioned is basically an AI agent. So you give it a task and it will be able to do things for you, and not just giving you text and giving you more work in the end. The issue is, the biggest threat is when you have three things. You have access to your information. I'm worried I'm gonna give wrong things, but basically the ability to communicate outside, access to your own information, and getting instructions. I think that's the three things. So if you have all three, you're in danger, and that's basically the promise of AI personal agents. There is no way to circumvent that entirely, but you can minimize and mitigate as much as you can. So for the example that you gave of a solopreneur wanted to have stuff done, if you remove the ability to go outside of your company, then you have basically mitigated the entire risk. So it has access to your information, which are your emails, and is able to do a bunch of things. But because it's internal, there's no way of leaking outside. And so you could have your agent running on a machine, ideally not yours, you never know, and just give it access to your email. Or rather, what I do even for my own agent is forward email to it, or give it an email and just forward specific emails to it, so it doesn't have access to everything. So again, just to minimize as much as you can, and work with it to build what now everybody calls it a skill, which is a set of instructions on how to basically. So I'm going to send you the link to the podcast. The podcast source video is in this folder. These are the instructions that you need to follow to read the video, parse the text, transcript, build this, do that, and at the end, create a package for me to do XYZ. So you can definitely do that, and people are doing it. My coach has done that. He has a podcast that he's been running for a long time, and he's having his agent to do all the extraction of the transcripts for him. And he even did that for the backlog of years of transcript that he had. And he was saying basically, I'll do that someday, which he know he would never do. But because AI can do it while he's sleeping, he managed to do that across the board for the last 5 years. So definitely something happening today.
Whoa, now you perked my interest there, going backwards in time. Sorry, it's like, hang on. That's a bit of manna from heaven. So if you have an AI agent, and everything I'm understanding about large language models, where everything's, and I know there's other elements. I think RAG is one of the other ones. I might be using the wrong acronyms, right? Does the intelligence reside on your box? Does it have to reside in the cloud? Is it a hybrid? If I'm thinking from a security point of view, I want things in my four walls. But if I don't care because it's nebulous, and the cloud's okay too because I'm not paying for storage. Which is better? Where should a business store their smart component? I'm going to call it that for now. Where do they
Yeah.
put their brains?
So the about the brain. So the files and everything obviously on your machine. The brain, you have a choice, but every choice is pros and cons. You do have today quite powerful models that you can run locally. So that would be something like a 7 GB file or whatever system you have to download, because it's billions of parameters, whatever. I'm not an expert in AI and LLMs, so I won't go down the rabbit hole. But basically, you could download an entire model on your machine and have it run and ask it to do what any LLM does. The issue is somebody built that model with one training set, whatever, whatnot process they do, and created that artifact or that box that you can download. On the other hand, and that's something you can download, most of them are free, I believe, and you can just download it, run it, and it's completely isolated. It's your machine, no leaks possible whatsoever, no training on your data. Everything is local. On the other end, you have OpenAI and Anthropic, which are AI providers. So their business is to make LLM models, and so they keep releasing new versions, and so training more and making it more smarter, and releasing new versions. I think yesterday Claude released another version of their most powerful model that's going to be even more powerful and even more expensive. And so it's really depending on what are your requirements. If you need the maximum reasoning, then the cloud models will be more powerful. But the trade-off is you are sending your data out. Most of them say they are not training their models on your data. You have no way to make sure that's not happening, but that's what they say, because you pay them. Technically safe, you just have to take their word for it, but you have maximum reasoning. If you are a security absolutionist, then use a local model, but the power of the brain is going to be lesser. So it's basically a choice to make. And so for my own personal, so I'm using OpenClaw for my personal agents, just one flavor of all the personal agents that we have today. And I do have a local model running on the host. But as I was asking the LLM itself, which model should I use for which task? It was like the downloaded model is great for writing the brief or reading XYZ. But if you want to interact in the chat and have actual reasoning to figure out what to do next, this model might be too limited. So you might want to do the cloud model. So it's really depending on the task.
Something that came up in previous chats, and I've experienced it in the '80s. It's a piece of software I was using, and I was really getting used to how to program it. It was called DBase 3 Plus. I thought it was just you can do kind of a little bit of coding, and I'm not a programmer. I won't know like an engineer would be able to say you store it this way, you save space, you do it this way, it speeds things up. And then one day it disappeared. And I think Access was Microsoft Access
Mm.
was the thing that, the next level. Almost like Word Perfect to Word. There are evolutions like that. And to me, all of a sudden, I realized that software is disposable. Is this something that's built, whether it's the back end, if you're using an Anthropic or Chat GPT or a Llama or, take your pick of the poisons. Is it something it's here today? It might morph or tomorrow, like Sora, gone.
With I think it's a 1 billion deal with Disney, like just next day. By the way, we're not doing that anymore. Bye.
So would this be considered disposable software, or is it something like, if I build it, right? If I build this house and I put, build it out of concrete, it's not going to disappear too easily, right? Does it have does if you build it in agentic AI, is that something permanent, or is that something you have to have another revision over time, like every 5 years, kind of go back and go, okay, we've been running this, now here's the upgrade, or a different way of doing it?
So for personally, just I think it's gonna be. I mean, many people think it's gonna be the future of the world actually. And something that piqued my interest and made me dive into OpenClaw so much was that the Chinese government is having a huge propaganda to have every single citizen get up to speed on OpenClaw and have their personal agent. If an entire government is pushing his population to use something, that means something, especially China, which is kind of at the cutting edge of technology. So that kind of made me that, you know what, if they are saying this, you should maybe get inside and see what it's like. So the concept of having agents is basically having secretaries. We've seen movies, we know very top executive having secretaries and personal assistants. You need to be in a certain position in your business or in your life to have somebody working for you just to take care of your life. Now with AI, everybody will be able to have their own agent that helps them. So the concept will not disappear, but the mechanics of it will evolve. And I think the basis of OpenClaw, and some people are doing their own version of it, and most of the big providers are doing their own version of it. So the concept itself, the implementation changes, but the concept doesn't change, which is having a brain, so what we just touched, which is the LLM. So this keeps changing every 2 weeks. And pick your poison, like you mentioned. And you have the three major ones we know: Google, Anthropic, and OpenAI. But you have the Chinese ones, you have other ones. You have like, even in OpenClaw, you have a list of, I think, 30 model providers you can pick. So this one, just go wild, see which one you like, and be okay to change next week. So that's the brain. Then you have the memory system, and this is just basically writing files to the box, because again, the brain cannot remember everything, same as us. So for us, we tend to forget. For AI, it writes files so it doesn't forget. And then the next piece is being able to take action. That's the skills we touched, which are again a set of instructions. And using the brain, having access to memory, and being able to do things with the skill, you can have your personal agent being able to remember, think, and act. And that will not change, but the brain will change. Your memory evolves and gets bigger, essentially. And the tools that you are able to, the skills and the actions kind of evolve with you as a business owner or even an individual. Because today you need help to do your taxes. Tomorrow you need to transcribe your podcasts. And next week you're starting a new venture and you need assistance to do X, Y, Z. So it keeps evolving because you keeps having needs that you can get AI to help you fulfill. So it will change in the implementation and in practice, but the overall concept will remain.
If I'm a business and already using certain software, like I've mentioned, like, using the Microsoft Office suite is an example, or it can be QuickBooks, or even the video editor I'm going to be using to edit this podcast, Riverside FM. Does the AI, the agentic, or the AI agents, will they integrate well, or is that something that I should have an expert kind of handhold me through and find out how to make that, pardon the or the expression, application interface API, right? And I can say it, but have I done it? No. So at a certain point in time, I'm going, if I stick my finger in here, is it going to break things? Is there things that businesses find when they try to inject the AI into it that's not part of the package, where things go sideways?
So the thing is, it's very early stage. So it's early adopter level. You have to get your hands dirty. It breaks every now and then. And so for business owners that need something reliable, I believe, at least for now, you should get somebody that's been doing it for themselves and for other people, that knows where it broke and knows how to fix, especially because even if, let's say, I've worked on 6 different use cases for myself and my clients, your new use case might be different, something I've never done. And so we might try and it's still going to fail. But because I've been failing so many times with my own personal news aggregation that keeps breaking every morning because some RSS feed stopped working, I know the steps to take to investigate and fix it without having to ask AI to tell me, when sometimes the AI doesn't even know what happened because otherwise it would have done the mistake in the first place. So for now, I guess you still need help because the early adopters are the ones who kind of have the expert, because experience, it's not even experience because it's like a few months, but still experience because some people lose sleep against personal agents. But again, the big providers are working relentlessly to release consumer grade, more secure versions. So soon everybody is really be able to do some version of their personal agent or their company level agent that's secure enough. So you could wait, or you can just play with a few very simple use cases. Just start getting used to it. The earlier you get in, the more comfortable and confident you get to use it, and the more ideas it gives you, basically. So yeah, everybody should start now. I just know that it's not going to be super easy as of today. It's still very hands-on mechanics.
So don't pick your critical software, mission critical software if
Yeah,
it goes
basically.
sideways. Pick something in the periphery and learn from that, and then go from there. But you know what? It also sounds like then they should perhaps reach out to you. So, what type of clients do you engage? If I'm out there listening to this podcast, I'm like, oh, I want my AI agent and I want to make it work well and I want to be there, right? I want to be at top of the curve. Who is that person for you?
So most of my clients come from the development side currently. So, and I'm helping them. So usually it starts with a brief. I want to build an app, blah, blah, blah. Before it was code, no code. Now it's AI coding. And as soon as we release the app, most of the time people have extra needs. And so we start discussing during the project, oh, there's also this, do you know somebody or this is something you can help with? And that's kind of where I expand my scope and kind of give a CTO level advisory companies. So always you have to start somewhere. I cannot just say, oh, I'm going to help you do your agents. Nobody really looking for somebody to help them build agents. Not many people, some people, but not many. But software, many people know they need software. So usually it starts from there. But it's solopreneurs or small companies that again, staff is short. And so you need to get the most out of the few employees or collaborators that you have. And nowadays, and that's something I've been realizing, like I start preaching, is that you actually won't need to hire so many people anymore, which is good and bad thing. It's another debate, but for the basic stuff and for the repetitive stuff, the annoying stuff, you will not need to hire like entry level assistants anymore. It's going to be done by AI.
And if you have zero coding background, just like you have a bit of adventurous spirit in you, where do you start if you're looking to build your own AI agent?
So it depends. If it's a website or web app, I would say go Lovable because they have a very good design approach. And so that helps you visualize quickly. So that's for web apps. If it's for actual software, it still might be web in the end, but you're not really sure, but you have files you need to handle, or you're trying to figure out how to sort out your Stripe exports because you have to do taxes and you are using GHL and it's absorbed the tax. So you need to sort this mess out. You can use Cloud Code or Codex, which are the agentic coding versions of, software of Anthropic and OpenAI. And it always starts with a prompt. You give it the files, start with a prompt, always with what you're trying to achieve, and ask it to come up with a plan on how it would help you address that. So review the plan, make amendments, correct the few assumptions that were wrong, and from there, give it a shot, say start with X. And also most of the time when you ask for a plan, it's gonna give you like phased approach as well. And so you can always start with phase one, see the results, play with it and move slowly. But even slowly is actually pretty fast because within 30 minutes it's gonna give you a pretty solid first version of what you're
Oh
trying
no,
to do. Yeah.
30 minutes is slow.
Yeah.
So if I build my own AI agent or have someone build it for me that's custom app, is there off the shelf products and which is better then? Should I do it one that's like tailored to me or one that is like, yeah, it's got most of the security, most of the architecture built in, but it's not quite custom.
So currently you don't have, so Anthropic is trying to, so OpenClaw was the first technology piece that really figured out the personal agent application. It's really not for everybody. Very hands-on, very not stable, very frustrating, but super rewarding and full capability, full flexibility. You have no limits. You manage everything yourself. Anthropic is adding more and more bricks to their cloud offering, the co-work piece and the code piece, to kind of do this kind of delegation of tasks and working on your computer on files. And so kind of doing what OpenClaw has opened, they're just bringing everything in. And I'm sure OpenAI basically hired the guy who created OpenClaw. So is they going to release their own version soon? Obviously, you have Perplexity that created their own version as well. That's called the Perplexity Computer. So depending on your level of how much hands-on you want to be, that's why you kind of pick your poison, keeping in mind the less hands-on you are, the more money you have to pay to the provider. So you pick
Yeah.
your poison. There's still a poison to swallow at the end of the day. But for me, technically, I'm a technical guy. So I actually enjoy going through the pain of fixing and figuring out and understanding. So that's just something I enjoy doing. But most people won't because it's just frustrating. So in that case, I would say go to an off-the-shelf, see the capabilities, read not necessarily the documentation. That's a bit useless, but ask it, Is this something you can do? Yes, no. Okay, what do you recommend? I asked Claude Cowork to do an assessment on the task. I forgot what it was, but I was like, oh, I'm looking at doing, I was trying to automate my bookkeeping because I hate going to it's not QuickBooks, but it's another software. I was like, is this something you could do? You have access to my email. You can just pick the receipts and go to the thing, go to transactions, update, categorize it. And I was like, not really, because I'm more managing the files. And I was like, that's a bummer. I thought you could do everything. So that's, for example, just asking Claude, I want to do this. Is it something you can do? Yes, no, no. Okay. I still haven't done it even with my open claw, but I have automated my insurance claims, which is fascinating. So it's basically literally going to the portal. So I still have to log in manually, and there is a two-factor authentication. So I get the code on my phone. So still security. I log in first, then I forwarded the emails with the claim statement, which is the month's worth, and it will pass the PDF, extract the 5 appointments I had with the price and the date and the blah, 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 go to the portal, click around, and submit the claims for me. Or even prepare, and at the end, I just go and click once. And so this is the kind of things you just experiment. Start with one of them and see what it can do, and how you like it.
So 5 years from now, what's it going to look like?
5
What do
years
you
from
figure?
now,
Yeah,
yeah,
with AI.
I mean, 3 months ago, I had no idea that this would be today. 5 years, flying cars, and we're on Mars. I don't know. But definitely, I am seeing people everybody having their own, like, butler for themselves. And so and some people are already doing this with OpenClaw. So you have a personal assistant, you have an assistant for the family, you have an assistant for work. And again, you can create, as I watched a podcast where a lady said she had 9 agents. That might be a bit much, but she was saying one for her, one for her family stuff, the kids and stuff. One because she's starting a new venture, she needed accountability. One for X, one for Y, and she's building one for her kids. And so that's gonna be what we have. And on top of that, I think we're going to have the physical version of it, which are what Tesla is working on, the Optimus robotics and stuff. So you're going to have actual robots that can impersonate these agents, the brains, and go and do things for you. So get your groceries physically. And I'm seeing, maybe not 5 years, but I am seeing a world where nobody goes to supermarkets anymore. It would be just the Amazon, not factories, the Amazon warehouses. It's all robots running around, getting the ads and getting the items. It's not organized for a human to be able to navigate, but the robots know it can navigate amazingly. And so all the ads will be for robots, and other robots come and pick up the lists of items, and you just wait home and get your stuff done, and that's it. Nobody has to walk down aisles and push carts to buy food.
So for yourself, are you looking for what type of business owners or collaborators are you looking to connect with? If someone again is listening to this podcast and they are either people that could be the client and or whether they need the product or someone you might do a joint venture with, who would be the
So I
ideal
work,
people?
yeah. So I work mostly with founders that are not technical, because if you're technical, then you can figure out by yourself. And I have a bunch of friends doing that. But my clients are all not necessarily solopreneurs, but founders that have huge ideas, that are aware that there are possibilities, but they don't necessarily have the time to spend on it. They can do a little bit, and they try to poke at stuff and investigate, but they have a company to run, essentially. So you can't stop for a week trying to figure out how a lobster can work with your balance sheets. This is the kind of people I help, non-technical founders that are still have time to um, sit down and bounce off ideas and play around, but needs to be able to delegate at some point the overall execution of the work. And that could be any industry. So many people say you have to niche and focus on one vertical. I have clients in farm tech. So family tech, that's the thing apparently now, around household management and alignment between partners. So that's one of my longest clients. I work with people in real estate. I was with people in finance. So I like to have the diversity of the industries, but the persona is always the same. Founder, small team. I want to play with stuff, but I don't have enough time. I need somebody to help me get things done.
Perfect. You're French.
Yes.
and lived in France, but that's where you lived the least. What's the backstory on that?
Yeah. So I'm French, definitely. I was born in Martinique. Martinique is an island in the Caribbean. We were a former colony in our French department, so we are born French. So I was born there, grew up there up to high school, and I graduated and went to uni in France. So that was 5 years originally, because masters in France are 5 years. But I left to Singapore in my for my last year. So spent 4 years in France, lived in Singapore for 8, then moved to Australia for 1, and then after that moved to Canada. And I've been in Canada since 2021. So that's now 5 years. So took over France also. Yeah, 17 years in Martinique, 4 years in France, and then Singapore and Canada now.
Welcome to Canada. It's good to
Yeah,
have you here.
thanks. Thanks.
Just to kind of wrap things up, Alan writes a daily newsletter called La Toolbox d'Alan. It's going to be en français, so if you might have to have a translator handy. Maybe you'll have an AI agent to do that for you, eh? But it's packed with practical AI tips for business owners who want to stay sharp about staying on top of things without getting overwhelmed. All right, and you can find it on Substack at La Toolbox d'Alan. That's d'_Alan.substack.com. Alan's also offering a free consultation for business owners who want to explore setting up a personal AI agent, but aren't sure where to start. So to book that, reach him at calendly.com/Alan, ALLAN-Edmond, EDMNOD /free consultation. And, if today's got you thinking about, geez, I might want to have AI help me out, get your own personal Jarvis, so to speak, if you're not in the Marvel Comics section, reach out to Alan. And it's not just personal, but also business, right? We'd like to send out a big thank you to Blair Patton from Benchmark Insurance, who made the introduction between Alan and myself. So thank you so much. And, you know what? Alan is solving some of the quietest problems in business right now. The solo operator, who's doing work of 5 people. I can attest to that. You can't do it all. So he'll save you some time and he'll save you some grief. And he'll also structure the app so that you'll stay on top of things and you won't have a leaky sieve. Head over to TechPeace and take Alan up on that free consultation. You'll find the links in there.
Everything you heard today is for educational purposes only. It's not professional advice. Before you act on anything, talk to a certified expert in your area. Your accountant, your lawyer, someone who knows your situation. We share perspectives. You make the decisions. Want more? Head over to blog.knack4business.com, packed with practical episodes on AI, marketing, leadership, and growth. No fluff, just the good stuff. Subscribe while you're there. Until next time, keep building.